While you can expect students to be a little anxious on test day, rest assured that test day unfolds in some fairly predictable ways. Coordinators will have everything ready to go, so proctors can pick up prepared kits specific for their test rooms. In the rooms, proctors will come up with seating plans and prepare to admit students to the test. They'll hand out test materials after all the students have arrived, not before. Then, the test follows the routine described in the testing room manual in both direction and script, which proctors will read word for word. Proctors will engage in active monitoring, watching for and tracking any irregularities in the room. Once all sections are complete, the proctors will collect all the test materials and dismiss the room before sharing the materials back to the coordinator. Our coordinators should have prepared kits to share with you when you get to school. The kits will contain a student list for the room, the correct number of test books and answer sheets, as well as a testing room manual and an irregularity chart, IR. Be advised, once you have the materials, you become responsible for their security until they're returned after the test. This means keeping an eye on them all morning or engaging the room monitor or coordinator during breaks to watch over them while you're on breaks. Now, it's not suitable for testing. When you close this window, select the Room Criteria button and review the test room requirements. Then you'll see 5 highlights on elements that need to be fixed. See if you can identify how to correct each of the problems. Right. Desks need to be facing the front of the room, all of them. That's it. Any learning materials on the walls have to be removed or covered. Good. Study carrels are not permitted in the test room. You've got it. Desks need to be separated by 3 feet measured from the center of the desks to beat cheating. Correct. The room needs to have a clock set up at the front of the room or another means of accounting for time. You've identified all the best options to set up the room correctly. Select the how long each section will take in order to understand the pace of the test, the pace of your morning. Furthermore, it's important to understand that this can't be rushed and that correct timing is a critical part of fair testing. As a side note, if you happen to run overtime with the administration activities, make sure the timing of the remaining sections remains the same. Again, you can't rush the sections regardless of how the rest of the school's test is unfolding. You may be used to handing out materials to classes. You may even do this nearly every day. So, do you think there is any difference in the way you hand out test materials? There is. Make sure to hand out test materials individually to students rather than setting a stack of materials on the front desk of a row and having students hand them back. You'll collect materials individually as well. Again, the idea here is to ensure there are no opportunities for any student to gain an unfair advantage. Administering the test can be extremely straightforward. Using the script in your manual, you'll read it word for word in the order provided. There, test administered. Still, you want to make sure you're doing it right. What does that mean? You'll start where the manual says begin here on test day. There follows some information on what to include on the board, as well as how to deal with cell phones and backpacks, and then latecomers. Then you get important instructions on how to read the script, including when to pause and what parts are to be read versus instructions to you. Next, you'll read the tinted components aloud and follow the instructions. Here you see the script for the first section, the reading test. It indicates the duration of the test and has a place for you to write down the start and finish times. It also includes instructions for what you should be doing during the test, as well as timed call-outs you will need to make to keep students apprised of the time. An important tip: read through, even practice script reading before the test to understand where the potential challenges are. Feel free to mark up the script if it is helpful. One thing to be mindful of: if your school did take the students through the pre-administration activity and an early date, you'll need to skip that section on test day. Otherwise, you'll read it in order. Part of your day will be managing breaks between sections. Select each segment for some pointers. While students are mid-test, write the time for the next break on the board, both when it will start, how long it is, and when students will need to return. Indicate, too, that beverages and snacks are permitted during breaks. Ideally, snacks and beverages should be consumed outside of the testing room, but this may not be possible in all schools. Please make sure that eating or drinking is never allowed near testing materials. While the students are on break, walk around the room to check that all test books are closed and that all answer sheets are inside the test books. You don't want students to copy each other during breaks. Be aware that students are not to discuss the test during breaks, nor can they use their phones. They will need to be supervised while they are out of the room. Hall monitors or the coordinator can cover this role. As students return to the room, review your room count or attendance sheet to ensure they are supposed to be there. During the testing, you will need to engage in active monitoring. What is active monitoring? Active monitoring involves a combination of walking around the room, observing students, watching for irregularities, watching the time, and in spare moments, reading ahead in the script to make sure you are comfortable with the next stage you need to announce. The final section of the test is now complete, and you've directed the students to stop working. Can they just leave now? Students can't just leave when they're done. But to simplify dismissal, your role is scripted in the manual, just like other portions of the test. You'll direct the students to remain seated while you collect materials. Here are a couple tips. Collect test books and answer sheets in the same order you distributed them. Make sure answer sheets aren't stuffed into test books. It is even recommended that you shake out the test books to be safe. Make sure you have a test book and answer sheet from each student. Make sure that all students have indicated their name, grade, and school code on their answer sheets and have filled out the form code on the back of their test book. Once collected and confirmed, you can dismiss the students, replace all materials to the kit, and return everything to the coordinator. Coordinators and proctors have one more responsibility they share. All the test materials need to be reconciled. Ultimately, this means ensuring that the test materials distributed are the same as the ones returned. Test books, unused answer sheets, and used answer sheets have to come back with nothing missing and be counted. Proctors plan to return materials in that order with your IR on top. If your school has used the test room cover sheet, adding it to the top of the returned materials will help coordinators confirm they've received back all test materials from all rooms and distinguish at a glance standard rooms and accommodated testing rooms. Feeling good about your role on test day? Despite the fact it only happens a few times a year, think of test day as a kind of routine. You'll get your materials, take them to the test room, make sure the test room is adequately arranged, and add information to the front board. Then, once you've admitted students, you'll read through the scripts, distribute test materials when prompted, and make sure students are tested fairly, which you'll do through active monitoring. Keep an eye on the time, manage the sections and the breaks, and everything will go very smoothly. When you're done, make sure to collect everything back, let the students out, and breathe a sigh of relief.